Well,
thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we're welcoming you out to day 48. Day 48 and still zero action on the part of the Senate. We've asked nothing more than for the Senate to be a partner in this with us. We're doing the work that the people have asked us to do. We're standing here literally hours away from a potential government shutdown and still no willingness from the Senate to work with us in a meaningful way. So unfortunately, day 48 and hours away from a government shutdown. Right now I want to recognize the president of the freshman class, the gentleman from Georgia, Austin Scott.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. And as most of you know, for the last 48 days, former boxer Harry Reid has danced around the corners of the ring, unwilling to address this issue of the budget crisis and the deficit that is facing our country and the potential shutdown. I no longer have hopes of Harry Reid actually voting in favor of a measure that would prevent the shutdown. I'm here today to simply ask him to allow the Senate to vote on the measure that the House passed yesterday. He individually doesn't have the right to prevent the other members of the Senate from expressing their will and whether or not they want to pass the troop funding measure. So we would ask Senator Reid, simply allow the vote. Allow the vote so that the other senators that are elected to do the will of the people can have the opportunity to express how they feel about the measure that we passed in the House yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. I want to recognize one of our senior members, the gentlelady from Ohio, Congresswoman Schmidt.
Thank you, and I want to applaud the freshman class for coming out here every single day to say, please, Senate, act on this. The American public is waiting for us to do our job. We in the House have done it not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times, only to fall on deaf ears in the Senate. It is now time for Harry Reid to allow the vote that we passed yesterday to have an up or down vote in the Senate. And if it fails, then we'll start over. But midnight is looming, and it's not fair for the American public to be held hostage to a Senate that's unwilling to work with us.
Thank you. I want to recognize the gentleman from Kansas, Mike Pompeo.
Good morning. We reached today, and as someone who served in the United States Army on active duty and then in the reserves, I am hopeful that the folks in the chamber right behind us will do the right thing and keep our soldiers who are in harm's way getting paychecks so that their families and their kids get what it is they deserve as they're standing between us and defending our freedom.
Thank you, Mike. He is one of 22 veterans in the freshman class. Here's another one from Illinois, Congressman Adam Kinzinger.
Well, hey, thanks everybody. You know, I still get to fly airplanes. I get the privilege of doing that as a member of the Air National Guard. In fact, I have a girlfriend that right now is deployed overseas, and I keep hearing from my friends and everybody saying, hey, what's going to happen with the military pay? Are we going to get paid? You know what I say? Ask Harry Reid. I don't know, we've tried to. We've tried to ensure that the paychecks keep flowing for our military, but Harry Reid has sat on this bill, which would ensure that to the end of the year. It is high time that the Senate do the right thing, take action, even while the negotiations are occurring. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. I got a call this morning from a young sergeant, an Army National Guard troop from my district, who is in pre-deployment waiting to go to Afghanistan. He's got a wife and 4 kids at home, and they're on the phone saying, are you going to get paid? They've got bills to pay. He's got a wife and 4 kids to feed. Our military are paid through electronic deposit, and many of them have their bill pay set up through automatic pay. And when the money's not there, their bills don't get paid, their credit ratings suffer. We've opened up a can of worms here that we can't even calculate what the devastation would be to our military and their families. We're asking for responsibility from the Senate. As you can see, our group has grown considerably over the last week, joined by senior members as well as freshman members. I'm pleased to recognize one of the senior members, the gentleman from South Carolina, Congressman Wilson.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to be here, and I am very grateful to be the chairman of the Military Personnel Subcommittee. And so my heart is with our troops, our military families and veterans. From day one, I want to commend Rick and Austin and the Republican freshmen. They have been standing up for our military. From day one, they have passed a budget. We are here because the liberals in the House of Representatives last year did not pass a budget. That's the reason we're here. The Republicans passed a budget with the new conservative majority. Now the Senate will not pass a budget because the liberals will not allow a vote. We should have the American people contact the liberals to have a vote. We must have a budget for our troops and military families. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you ask a small business, here's your choices. Cut 5% from your operating expenses or close the doors. I dare say every small business owner, every large business owner can easily find the 5%. We've only asked for 2% to keep the doors open and responsibly fund our government. I'm pleased to recognize the gentleman from South Carolina, Congressman Tim Scott.
I tell you, with two brothers in the military, one who has served in Iraq, I look at my nephews, 5 years old, 9 years old, I talk with them about the reality of where we are. They ask if their daddy's going to be safe. I talk to my sister-in-law about the truth of this opportunity for the Senate to say to our military, to those who are being shot at, that it is incredibly important for them to know that without question their families are fed, that their homes are paid for. With our Senate's inaction, what does that say to our military troops? Nothing. Silence. We can no longer demagogue this issue about Republicans and Democrats. We must come together, forge an opportunity for our military to understand without question that we believe in them more than we do partisan politics.
Thank you, Tim. As Tim said, we have soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines actively engaged on at least 3 fronts, maybe 4 before the week is out. We don't know. But we've asked them and they have delivered willingly. They don't do it for the money. They don't do it for the glory. They do it because they love their country. We've asked the Senate to at least recognize the sacrifice and pay those troops for what they do. They deserve our best, not our least, but at the very least, the Senate needs to act to fund those troops. I'm pleased to recognize the gentleman from New Mexico, Congressman Pearce.
Thanks, gentlemen. I served in Vietnam at a time when the nation began to play the same sorts of games with the military. We had to divert fuel from training missions here, so we had fuel to fly missions in Vietnam. It was a shame then, and it is a shame now. I just read a book called Lone Survivor, a team of 4 SEALs inserted into the Afghanistani mountains. That team let 3 sheep herders go that they, by all rights, should have killed. But they were worried about being tried for war crimes in this country, so they let them go. And the team of Taliban, over 100 strong, came, maybe almost 200, came over, pushed them back down the hills, 300 yards at one drop, straight down. 3 stories the next time. All in all, they fell over 900 yards down the mountain. They continued to pick up their fighting positions. 3 of the Marines were shot at, 3 of the SEALs were shot and killed. Shame on this country for making this a political exercise yesterday. Shame on the president who said we are not going to consider funding the soldiers. Shame on a Senate who said we will not take up the bill. This nation's fighting men and women deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. We have got time for question and answer. I'm going to defer to Congressman Griffin from Arkansas, as well as one of our senior members, Congressman Gingrey from Georgia. Go ahead.
When you guys go home to your districts, you will likely face constituents who are angry with both parties for not being able to come to a deal here, a resolution. What will you tell them? Would be that you Republicans share no responsibility for this government?
Well, I know that Tim will want to speak to this as well. I'm Congressman Phil Gingrey from Georgia, the 11th District of Georgia.
To the cameras, please.
I was serving as a medical doctor before being elected 9 years ago, so I guess I'm somewhat of a veteran now. But I think this great freshman class, when people ask, you know, who's pulling their strings, I can tell you who it is. It's the men and women of their districts. They're marching to the beat of that drum. And when they get home to those districts, I think they'll get the same response that I've gotten from my district, whether it's in person on a town hall meeting, a tele-town hall meeting. They say, you go, Phil, and you stand strong, because cutting $100 billion out of a budget that's got a $1.6 trillion deficit is a drop in the ocean, and you stay strong. Tim?
Tim Griffin, Arkansas 2. I'm already hearing from constituents, Facebook, phone calls, email. I don't have to wait till I get back home to hear from them. And they agree with our message, which is, yes, we need to fund the government, and we've done that. But at the same time, we've got to get our fiscal house in order. And I think this is a situation where it troubles me, because how are we going to deal with the bigger problem of the national debt when we get to next year's budget and beyond if we can't cut a few pennies now? That's what really troubles me. I mean, it's like canceling your HBO when you can't afford your house payment. It just doesn't make any sense. And we hear all the folks celebrating the GAO reports that come out that say we can save $100 billion here and another $100 billion here, and we're squabbling over what equates to pennies. That is the most troubling part of it all.
Any other questions?
Other questions?
What are you guys hearing right now is going on inside? Any progress being made?
Well, we've been talking a little bit this morning before the press event started, and we really don't know. I think basically everybody is sitting in front of the television set and trying to figure this thing out. I know that our leadership, our speaker, and I want to just say this, that the Republican conference, all 242 of us, the entire freshman class, are extremely supportive of our leadership and Speaker Boehner. He's tough as nails. He's going to get what the American people need. We're going to get beyond this, and then we're going to tackle the 2012 budget. This is all about jobs, and none of us want to see the government shut down. We don't want to see 800,000 federal employees furloughed. We don't want to see any members of our staff furloughed. But this is about principle. This is not about politics. Tim?
Any other questions? Tim, you want to respond to that as well?
I would just say I believe that what we're doing here, gathered out here today and speaking to the folks back home, can still impact the process. That's why we're out here. It's not over till it's over. I still have a small bit of optimism, and that's why I'm continuing to do everything I can to apply pressure on the Senate to do something.
Mr. Gingrey, you said this was about jobs. As where we understand it, that it comes down to some of these policy writers, particularly Planned Parenthood and abortion and things like that. How do you square that circle?
Well, I think these policy writers are very, very important, and our conference feel very strongly about this. We, as an example, we have always been against spending the taxpayer dollars to fund abortion. Elective abortion may be legal, but it should not be funded by the taxpayer, and it never has. So to have that language very specifically in this CR, in this appropriation as a rider, is not unusual at all.
But how does dealing with the abortion issue and Planned Parenthood deal with jobs? You said a moment ago this was
Spending cut.
Well, it's about spending cuts. Certainly, it is about spending cuts. And as you look at the two short-term, the $2 billion and then the $4 billion, every time we take a cut, we're cutting things that we think are unnecessary spending on the part of the taxpayer. So from that perspective, the main issue is to cut that spending, and then we will grow jobs.
Any other questions? Well, again, I want to thank you. I really feel it's a travesty that we have to be here on day 48 of Zero Action, but I want to thank my colleagues for their steadfast support in this effort. As you can see, there are more than 30 members that are here today, showing that we're serious about this, we're responsive to the American people, and we're going to continue to be about the people's business, and we ask the Senate to do the same thing. Thank you.